Hi, good evening. Steve Lynott from Kerry Dark Sky Tourism, and we're with you, myself and John Flannery, by recording today. We're recording this on the evening of Wednesday, the 6th, because due to prior commitments, we couldn't make the date today. We've had some stunning skies in Kerry over the last couple of weeks, and we've had some people from all parts to enjoy them. Regrettably, things are looking a bit grey again this week, but hopefully we'll get clear skies soon. I'm delighted that we'll be joined later by Daniel Maloney, who's going to talk about natterjack toads. And the other two toads you're dealing with today, myself and John Flannery. John is going to do his briefing on what's up in the sky this month. Some interesting bits there. If there's any queries or questions, Orla will get details and we'll respond by email. So without further ado, over to you, John. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve. And I guess I better give you a quick hop around the sky to just see what's happening during the month of April. This picture I took actually a few months ago. It was just quite a nice view of the gibbous moon just coming up over Dublin Bay, and there was a trawler setting out that evening. And we'll cast our net across the sky and see what is on view for everyone during the month ahead. And all the action is really in the morning sky at the moment. The major planets are congregating there, have a few close encounters with each other. Mars and Saturn were quite close to each other the last couple of mornings, but Saturn moves quite slowly on the sky from day to day. Mars is a bit more speedy, and it will, like, the aspect will have changed from the view that's showing there from in the graphic from earthsky.org. Any good planetarium software, any app on your phone, or the free software Stellarium that you can download for PC or laptop. I think it's a paid app on the phone, but that will allow you see the view over the next few mornings. It does necessitate earlier and earlier rises these mornings as the days begin to lengthen and we move towards the summer months when the nights are really, it never really gets dark at all. It's just persistent twilight throughout the night. Venus moves a bit closer to the duo of Mars and Saturn over the next few days, and they do have a few nice encounters. If it's clear any morning, you will see them. Jupiter isn't shown on that graphic because it's far too early in the month, but towards the end of April, you should begin to see Jupiter appearing in the southeastern sky ahead of the onrising sun. The evening sky, though, this month is a great opportunity to see the planet Mercury, the innermost planet. Very aptly named, Mercury was the messenger of the gods, and or Hermes was the Roman name for Mercury, and it sped from location to location in the firmament, delivering messages between the gods and goddesses. But it is equally a speedster on the sky as we see it from Earth. In fact, it only makes very short forays out of where it dwells in the solar glare, and the morning sky during spring or during autumn evenings, or the morning sky during the autumn is a good opportunity to see it. But for most of us, the evening sky during spring evenings is well worth trying to see this elusive world. It is because the ecliptic, that green line in the graphic, makes its steepest angle with respect to the horizon at this time of year. And the ecliptic is the path of the sun in the sky, or the plane of the solar system. So we're seeing the planets and the moon linger that bit longer and higher in the sky after sunset during the spring. Mercury pops up into view during the second week of April, then gets higher and higher in the evening sky. Look for it maybe about 30 to 45 minutes after sunset, and you should see it as a bright spark of light. But a really good opportunity, this close encounter of the planet with the Pleiades star cluster will occur towards the end of April. And it's showing there on the 30th of April, the planet is closest to that beautiful cluster of stars. Now, it will be twilight, so you probably will not see the Pleiades directly with the unaided eye in twilight, but turn your binoculars on the scene and you should see the brighter members of the cluster. One of the major meteor showers during the course of the year is the Lyrids. They come from a region of sky near the constellation of Lyra, the Lyre. They are so named. Meteor showers are generally named after the constellation from which they appear to radiate or originate. In other words, if you trace their path backwards in the sky, they appear to come from a particular point called the radiant. The meteors are actually traveling in parallel through space, but the effective perspective makes them appear to diverge outwards from a point source. And it's the same effect if you see a roadway or railway lines receding into the distance. They appear to converge towards the far horizon. And the radiant of the Lyrids doesn't actually get reasonably high until the hours towards midnight. They have a rate of about 10 meteors an hour, but that's often the theoretical value. If the sky is perfectly clear, the moon is absent, the radiant source is directly overhead, which it generally isn't. And you will maybe see a handful of meteors per hour, but surprises do occur. On occasion, the meteors have been seen to, or the rates have seen to climb much higher. And that's the beauty of meteor observing. You just never know that there's occasionally the potential for you to witness an outburst of these meteors. None is predicted for this year, but meteor science isn't exact. So it's always worthwhile keeping an eye out if it's clear. The Lyrids are actually the oldest known meteor shower. They were recorded by Chinese observers more than 2,000 years before Christ. And they come from a comet called Comet Thatcher, which is a long period comet. But the Lyre is associated with a mythological figure, the mythological figure Orpheus, who was supposed to have been such a magnificent musician that he could charm anything or any creature. And when his wife died, his wife went into the underworld, Orpheus was despondent, pleaded with the gods to get his wife back, and he was allowed travel to the underworld on condition that where he met with the god of the underworld, and he charmed the god of the underworld with his playing of his lyre, and the god allowed him to bring his wife back, but on condition that he didn't look back until they exited the entrance to the underworld. Orpheus, traveled out with his wife. He exited, but his wife stumbled, and he looked back to see was she okay. But unfortunately, he broke the conditions, and she forever remained in the underworld. And sometimes I call the lyrics the tears of Orpheus, those silvery teardrops falling from the sky as he laments his lost love. Speaking of things falling from the sky, as we look out at the inclement weather this evening, very often there's an opportunity during the month of showers to spot a rainbow, and they can exhibit many different facets. A rainbow is caused by sunlight being split by rain droplets into its constituent colors. The droplets act like tiny prisms, and the light enters the drop, is reflected from the opposite side of the drop and back out again. They always occur opposite the sun in the sky. The same way as we have a full moon, it's fully illuminated by the sun and is opposite the sun in the sky. The same with a rainbow, it's occurring because the raindrops are fully illuminated directly opposite the sun. And you get a range of intensities. The intensity can vary depending on the size of the droplet. If the droplet is too small, like you get in fog, you get a white arch where the light hasn't been refracted and reflected enough inside the droplet to split it up into the colors of light. So the light coming back out is white, so you get this pale fog bow. But if the droplets are more than a couple of millimeters in size, up to maybe 5 millimeters in size, you can get varying intensities of bows. And this was a really brilliant example. And you'll notice how the sky is brighter inside the main bow, the primary, and it's slightly brighter in the outside of the secondary. And in between, you have this dark band, which is called Alexander's dark band. And the effect has been known for a few thousand years. An ancient Greek philosopher called Alexander wrote about the phenomenon, but it's because light is scattered in a preferential direction. From the primary, it's towards the inside of the bow, and from the secondary, it's towards the outside. And you can see how in the secondary, it's fainter and the colors are reversed. You can get much so-called higher orders of bows, but they're extremely rare and have only been photographed on a handful of occasions in nature. The third and fourth order bow actually occur towards the direction of the sun. So one good website for learning more about this phenomena is Les Cowley's Atmospheric Optics page. It's atoptics.co.uk, and it will reveal a whole kaleidoscope of color and wonder in the sky caused purely by the interaction of light and water in its various forms, like ice and liquid. Oops. Sorry, I'll just see, I'm going the wrong way there. And another, like speaking of weather, there's a celestial object called the Beehive star cluster, also known as Praesepe, that we can see at this time of year. And it was once considered in weather lore as an indicator of sky conditions. It's flanked by two stars, Gamma and Delta Cancri, labeled on the chart there, but their actual names translate as the Northern Donkey and the Southern Donkey. They're depicted as eating hay from, another name for the cluster is the manger. So they're often depicted as eating hay from the manger, or flanking the manger that Jesus was laid in when he was born. And the visibility of the stars either side of the beehive were often considered an indicator of which direction bad weather was approaching from. So if the Northern Donkey was indistinct and hard to see, the bad weather was coming that direction, and vice versa for the Southern Donkey. Of course, there is some truth in the visibility of the beehive and the weather conditions. And if the sky is soggy with dew, so to speak, it can be hard to make out. Of course, nowadays we have to contend with light pollution, and you won't see the beehive from well-lit urban areas with the naked eye, but certainly from the countryside you will. And at the recent Dark Sky Festival, it was very obvious, along with a number of other star clusters were visible to the unaided eye. But binoculars will really give you a lovely view of the group. Cancer is the dimmest of the zodiacal constellations, but it lies between two relatively bright groups, Gemini to its right, and Leo, the lion, to its left. And Leo is very distinctive with the backward question mark marking the head of the lion and its four quarters, and Regulus, the heart of the lion. The beehive is also in a catalogue drawn up by the French astronomer Charles Messier in 1771. It's catalogued as number 44. And again, this time of year, amateur astronomers pursue run what's called the Messier Marathon, an opportunity to observe all the objects, all 110 objects in Messier's catalogue in a single night. And it definitely is a marathon observing session from dusk to dawn. Messier himself catalogued these objects because he basically was looking for a way of indicating things that were fuzzy and fixed in the sky, and what looked like comets but weren't comets. Messier was really interested in observing and discovering comets, and other observers and himself were stumbling across these other objects, and Messier decided to list them and chart their positions so that observers would not confuse them for comets. Ironically, we remember Messier nowadays for his list of non-cometary objects rather than the almost 20 comets that he discovered and co-discovered during the 18th century. And observers like many of these objects are the showpieces of the sky, like the M31 is the Andromeda Galaxy, M42 is the Orion Nebula, a region of star birth in the constellation Orion. And there really are showpiece objects, and they're also very important astrophysical objects that astronomers like study their properties to try and understand the universe, because many of them are the closest objects of their type to our solar system. Even some of the galaxies like M87, a gigantic galaxy in the constellation Virgo, it has been observed to have many thousands of light years long jet emanating from a region at its center that is now known to have a black hole of a couple of billion solar masses. And that particular black hole featured a couple of years ago in, well, basically was an object that they were able to not directly image the black hole, but image the disk of material that's spiraling around the black hole, and that it's gorging itself on that matter that's circling it. So the Messier objects are extremely important to astronomy, and they're well worth targeting at different times of the year. Although all 110 are visible in the months around the spring equinox, they're also visible right throughout the year. Different times of year bring different objects into view, and even if you don't see them during a marathon in a single night, over a few years you can track them down and observe them through different instruments, and really see these objects directly for yourself that have played an important part in getting us to where we are today in our knowledge about the universe. And then just to wrap up, the month is busy again with lots of other things happening, like various encounters between the planets and each other, or else with the moon. A few space launches are scheduled, but that their times can vary though because of technical issues or lots of other reasons. Various just lots of other things going on there, and certainly each month there's plenty to keep the observer, the backyard observer, the armchair observer busy and watching what's happening in the skies. And just to finally wrap up, the usual links are there for people to click on and visit for more information about whether the space station is going overhead. We had an aurora a week or so ago when there was eruption on the surface of the sun that flung charged particles towards Earth. Spaceweather.com will give information about other potential sightings of the Northern Lights. They were visible from Ireland in the early hours of the morning, but it wasn't as widespread an event as people were expecting. But observers from Northern Ireland down to South Tipperary managed to get photographs of the beams of light and curtains of light low on the northern horizon. But the sun is really picking up in activity, and we definitely will get more opportunities to, and fingers crossed, clear skies to see the aurora. Keep looking up.
Thank you, John. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, thanks, Steve. Thank you.
One of the things I dug out while you were talking there was this book, which is a book on the Messier Marathon by one of the inventors, Don Maschholz, who actually sent us a message when we were doing one down here some time ago. So that's one thing I just wanted to mention. You mentioned the meteor shower, and that'll be coming initially at night. We'll see it in the eastern sky coming. Lara will be coming up in the eastern sky. Two other things. We had some good displays of the space station last week, and hopefully we'll be seeing that again soon. But one thing that we saw during a session during the week that we hadn't seen for a while, and just to alert people to it, there was a report in the paper that satellites had been diverted to help the Ukrainians with access to communications, the Starlink satellites. And the other day, for the first time in many months, we actually saw a Starlink chain was visible in the night sky. They had done a lot of work to change the trajectories and the angles of attack of the actual satellites to stop them interfering with astronomy. But obviously, the Ukraine situation has taken priority over that concern. And so for the first time, we saw a quite impressive Starlink chain going over the Dark Sky Reserve last week. And it's just something to be aware of. If you do look up and you see what looks for all the world literally like a train with lots and lots of carriages, each carriage being a satellite following the next, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, they are dramatic. Like there's only a few seconds separating each.
Yeah, it really is quite impressive, and kind of when people saw it, they were quite amazed. So just to be aware, if you do look up and see it, that's what it is. So with that, we'll head back to Earth and back to you, Orla. And as I say, any questions, anytime, let us know and we'll try and get an answer. Thank you, Orla.
Thanks, Orla. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, John.